This is episode 9 of Building in the Trenches podcast. This is Sam.
This is David.
And we are having a fantastic Sunday, guys. Lots of things that we're going to go over today. We had a very eventful week last week. I'm very excited for this upcoming week ahead. I think overall today, David, I'm thinking about focusing a little bit more about the Elon versus Trump fiasco. Have you heard a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think it was earlier this week that Elon was just saying some crazy stuff on Twitter, particularly talking about how he was a part of the Jeffrey Epstein papers, which makes you wonder about the ethics of Elon Musk, of if you knew that he was involved in that scandal, why would you want to support him? And
so I think to the naked eye it looks like, hey, that is just the one thing that's going on, but in the back end there is macroeconomical climate. I mean, so again, as we discussed, Elon actually came into the government just because he didn't have government support from the Dems, and he's like, hey, I want to make sure that my EVs they still keep getting credited. And again, he's a businessman, and at a certain level, business and politics do combine. So what ended up happening is that, again, he came in with Doge trying to decrease deficit of the government in general.
I heard that he saved over $150 billion.
Yeah, and so what Trump basically did is hey, we're still saving money from Doge, but we're gonna go and increase military spending like insane. I think there was $3 trillion bill that I think he's passing or is being passed right now.
Right.
So why Trump was Elon was like, hey, we can't be spending $3 trillion and save $500 million. I think it was $3 billion, not $3 trillion.
Right.
But I was like, and then that's why, and then he was like, hey, I'm still gonna be spending it. So that's why Elon was like, all right, I'm a part of Doge. I feel like I'm a part of the government. That's not how I run things. He's like, hey, do something about it. Didn't end up happening. And and at the end, it was just ended up being a, kind of a funny little, Twitter fight.
Yeah, it's a fiasco because what these two men are kind of doing, it's impacting not only those two people, but also how the government, also how people are, the taxpayers' money, but also shareholder value as well.
Yeah.
Because of that one decision, I think on, was it True Social? True Social, Trump posted that, I realized that these government contracts are very wasteful in terms of how we're actually distributing and spending taxpayers' money. So we're actually going to decrease contracts. And that one of them was Tesla. So that's why there was some mishaps.
Yeah, so I think it was the EV credit. So what he's saying that, again, I just got an EV and I got a credit off $7,500 just from that car, just from the government itself, that, hey, we're going to make sure that people buy more electric cars instead of regular cars. But then that also increased a lot more pressure on, combustion engine cars and stuff. And we've all known Republican people, they are more into that fossil fuels and all that. They don't care too much about the environment and stuff. But again, it's also about having a level playing field, because I think with EVs, Tesla does have a little bit of a monopoly.
Right.
And again, no one else is anywhere near close to these guys. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the American, manufacturing does occur within that specific industry, which is fossil fuels, and there's those specific cars in general. So again, I think I understand both viewpoints. Elon as a
what do you lean more towards?
So it's also a very tough question, because again, I'm a huge Elon fanboy, but being from the finance background, every single government, again, we have an increased amount of debt within our country. We're basically, a country defaulting, within themselves. Every single government that comes in, they keep pushing the can down the road. They're instead of paying off that debt or trying to do something about it.
Yeah, if we just think about the structure of politics, politicians in general, they're gonna be there for maybe 4 years or so, and then they're gonna churn out.
Yeah.
So it's always short-term interest over long-term interest. Long-term interests are not gonna be pertained. Even now, the thing you were talking about, they're, I think, increasing their spend to $2 trillion.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And by 2032, the next generation, all of the payments that they make is just to social security. It's actually outrageous.
So the thing here is that it also again, the thing with American politics is that the person is only here 4 years. So again, they can't really do much over here without having to think about re-election and all of that. So overall, whoever does like go deeper into like Doge and actually cutting spending, realistically speaking, with the amount of debt that we have, you can't just cut a bunch of spending and not restart the entire economy. We know it's good for us, but no president in the world is going to be like, hey, I want to just, be responsible for a recession in the 4 years that I was in it. Like, no one wants to be that guy.
Yeah.
They don't want to be hated because their goal is to get reelected. If I'm not really saying it's we should have like a 10-year or even like communism in general, but what I'm saying is that like in China, people are able to make decisions over, and then that has effect over a very long time. And with in the United States, it's just the whole political side of things does affect that. So on my side, answering that question, I do believe. I understand as a politician, if I were, into the position of, Donald Trump, I would probably do the same thing because, again, I want to get reelected. I want to make sure that I want to appease.
You have to appease the people that are voting you.
Yeah, and again, you got elected by appeasing people. Right. Why would you just even though the thing is, people are very short-mannered and they don't truly understand. Hey, we elected this man just to make our lives better for the next 4 years. But he just ruined all of our lives, and we lost all of our money, our entire we don't have we have crazy unemployment and everything. People are not they're just gonna blame that person. They're like, hey, this person is the reason this happened. Mm-hmm. So no one actually wants to go in and be like, hey, I'm just gonna cut spending drastically, cause a huge recession, and flush the entire economy. And then when I come back next time, the next person who comes in, they're gonna
There's also a game theory aspect of this, because think about it. It's not all Republicans that have the power within the Congress and the House. Let's say. So I believe there's a 3% just margin, which is not that much.
Yeah.
So the game theory is if Democrats are already saying, oh, we need to increase spending, that's their normal position. The other game theory, unless they have an edge where if they say yes, then they're going to be guaranteed to win, it's better to say no and then continue increasing for kind of the general population that they're most likely going to be re-elected into.
Yeah.
You see?
And again, I do believe, again, I don't think Elon's a politician, and he truly doesn't really understand that, hey, governments unfortunately cannot be run with the same mindset as companies in general, just because you only have a finite amount of time.
For example, doesn't increase shareholder value. That is truly a cost to society, which everyone does participate in, but again, it's being bloated to an insane sum. And as we kind of see the silver tsunami essentially kind of come into fruition, I'm really truly worried by 2032 if we don't actually figure out I believe it's in the trillions of dollars that the younger generation is going to have to finance, essentially utilizing what they pay in taxes.
So, and now that you are, kind of in the finance space, I feel like you do, we all just kind of need to understand that, hey, debt itself, in the 80s, we, the dollar got off from the gold standard down into, just not gold standard. It's basically
the de-dollarization, essentially.
Yeah.
Even now, I think earlier this week, we saw that people were not buying bonds, essentially. So how governments actually pay out all of their employees is they sell bonds, essentially.
Yeah.
Bonds is just on the market. There's a fixed yield of let's say around 4.3% for a 30-year or 10-year. So that kind of gives, as long as there's enough supply of the supply is infinite because they can continue to print these bonds. But as long as there's buyers purchasing it, then the government has reassurance that they could continue on
reselling the bonds, making
essentially
money.
Yeah. But right now, what they noticed, the bankers, they were not able to actually purchase. There were not enough buyers.
Yeah.
So that's why the bond yields, they have to increase that, meaning they have to repay, meaning that their debts are going to be increasing. So that's why we saw gold prices increasing and Bitcoin prices almost at an all-time high for that specific reason.
Yeah, and it's actually funny. The government actually just bought $10 billion worth of its own debt just by increasing, just by printing more money.
I mean, even now the revenue, if you think about business, just US as a business, our revenues are not near our deficits. We're just paying off our debts.
Yeah.
Not for government or space or any of that other.
So overall, like, I mean, what I think the main solution here is just going to be is that we're getting off the dollar, and the government is just going to create its own CBDCs.
Oh, wow, okay.
We're basically just going to say F you, the entire world. That, you know, the dollar doesn't really happen, and this is probably going to happen in the next 10 years.
That is wild.
We're going to create our own CBDCs, you know, on the blockchain, and you know, basically like. And again, there's going to be wars for that. They're like, hey, you know, someone's got to pay this debt. Well, this debt doesn't exist if the currency doesn't exist. You know, we created our entire society. Yeah. But again, that is going to come at a cost of global collapse. Oh, for sure. And there's going to be a reset just because you can't have this much deficit and kick the can down the road.
As the purchasing power kind of goes lower and lower.
Yeah.
And the gap can kind of, you know, grows bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, like, you know, it wouldn't happen in our lifetimes just because, you know, these things can go on for a very long time. But there is a pretty high probability that, you know, this is going to happen within our lifetime. And we just need to, you know, kind of be ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just like balancing inflation, just from what economic knowledge I know, like we've had currencies from the way beginning of like using stones as a value of exchange. But, you know, through times it kind of develops, and now we just have a paper money, which is kind of used as a value of exchange for trading one good for another. But right now the purchasing power goes lower and lower, and as long as like there's it's not tied to an actual asset like gold as it used to be, as you said. So there truly is no kind of perceived value, rather than the fact that other people believe in it. It's just like a faith-based system where you can trade it based up for another good, which is a phenomenal system. But as you mentioned, like, I mean, at this current rate of like government reprinting their own money and increasing like the revenue, like increasing their debts over year, it is truly shocking of like the devaluation of dollars. I mean, think about Argentina, for example.
Jeez.
They were just saying that, oh, we're never gonna tie our Argentinian pesos into like US dollars. That's what they had. They had three presidents within a span of 3 weeks. And during that time, one was like, okay, I cannot deal with this. The monetary system is too messed up. The other guy, I think he lasted a week, and then the other one, he says, we're not gonna, you know, tie our pesos into dollars. He did, and then eventually they collapsed. So I mean, these are just recurring themes, and I'm sure U.S. dollars, albeit it's like the superpower of the global economy and a hedge money essentially. I feel like, yeah, I mean, with what's going on with Bitcoin, kind of. The aspect of maybe we could kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. Yeah. But the fact that there's a monetary, like a fixed supply, and you could only denominate it like further and further into like, I think it's called like Satoshis, I believe, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that is a very novel concept. Maybe you could do that with like the USDC. I don't know too much about.
Yeah.
But having like a fixed supply, there are some benefits.
Yeah, and again, you can just like create your own stable coins just based on like, you know, current technology that's already on the blockchain. And that's, I think, I do believe that is probably going to be, you know, the next transition in the monetary system that we're going to go through. And I'm not exactly sure how long it can take. I mean, it could take decades. And I do believe that I think there is going to be, when this transitionary system is happening, I do believe there's going to be a little bit of a cushion for us as humanity in general, because I think it's going to be the same time around where universal basic income is going to get added. Yeah. So a lot of people, you know, they're going to be losing jobs, but realistically speaking, the way that, you know, technology and AI is evolving, realistically speaking, it is going to be able to take over a lot of the, you know, the jobs that are, you know, humans unfortunately are not able to do. And I do believe that that's kind of where, you know, the paths are aligning. And I do think, I mean, this is just a speculation though. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Within the, what's the,
like, you know, universal basic income, and while, you know, transitionary from, you know, being dollars over to, let's say, you know, just stable coins, or they're just a whole different system just to flush out our debt.
Yeah, I think it's a crazy take of like, yeah, just first off, like initiating UBI, just in general. But I was reading something like, this is maybe kind of going in addition to the UBI into the discussion, which is having like essentially deconstructing the system that we have within the educational system. I was seeing this guy. I believe he's in Austin or somewhere in Texas, where he's homeschooling his children essentially, and they teach 2 hours each day utilizing AI. So he was saying how he was able to, his kid is in 2nd grade, but he was able to pass all the metrics based on the traditional public system, and now he has more free time to kind of find out what the thing
he's interested in.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, that is kind of going where the UBI aspect is, right? Like, because UBI allows for people to not do like the autonomous work per se, but now put their talents into more creative things that maybe AI cannot do at the current time. So I feel like, I mean, this system is working. Like in terms of like educating children utilizing AI, because we're able to deconstruct what the public education system teaches, and then the children, like it also showed actual approval rates. It showed 2% higher, like in terms of progress, which is pretty alarming. Like the fact that like they're just only spending 2 hours. It's not 8 hours a day. So the fact that you're spending 2 hours, but very highly like deep work, the fact that it's already accruing like a lot of rewards, I feel like, I mean, UBI, I feel like that's just a matter of time, I feel like, to be honest.
Okay, so let's think about this. So because for trenchers, I mean, they're here for some business ideas. And I mean, let's say, somebody's able to do 8 hours of work in 2 hours just so that they're able to do things that they are interested in. You yourself actually just got a fish. So number one, before we, get into that, tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, I'm so happy. Well, it actually crazy story of like what happened. I woke up yesterday not believing that I was going to be a fish dad, but essentially there were some events that happened within the household. Someone tapped it, and then I was like, Sam was like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. And I was like, what if we get a fish in there? And then Sam already has 3 tanks, keep in mind. So I was like, I'll take care of this one. So we went to Petco 30 minutes before closing time. There was like 40 of them. I don't even know how Petco is able to sustain all of this life. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like a rough business model, I'll tell you that. But we got one, and his name is a Bumblebee. And maybe you trenchers, I'm looking at it right now, and it's very lively. We got it based on personality. I didn't want to go for like the Ferrari, like the nice Ferrari, the woman in the red dress, or like the blue, beautiful ones. This dirt-looking, like black with a white, yellow tail. I was like, this is it, because it was lively. It called me. So we got Bumble in the house. So yeah, super excited about that.
That's honestly very exciting. And I actually woke up and I was checking out Bumble as well, and I was like, yes, I'm very, very glad that you're on the dark side with us, in terms of the hobbies and stuff.
Right.
So connecting that with people having more time and business ideas, do you believe, let's say longer term, it is a good idea for trenchers to be building in spaces where, again, it's not going to provide you any specific monetary value, but it's going to provide a passive time or a specific interest? So let's say if a child has 2 hours and they're done with work, the next 6 hours they go on YouTube, they're like, oh, this is a cool fish tank, and oh my God, I'm going to try to take care of this. That means the hobby and the interest level over there is increasing. So somebody in the back end has to figure out, hey, I want to create a brand within, and fish tanks is just an example, within, fish tanks in general, just because I know people in general are going to be more interested in, hobbies other than, just making money, work, or even just commodities in general. Do you believe, am I just pushing too far, or do you believe that's a trend that is going to come?
I feel like that's been a trend for a very long time. Like people always working on like their pursuit or their magnum opus, let's say. So like one thing that I heard recently, it's actually from Togi, who's like a big gym influencer, and one of the things he talked about was how Alex Honnold, the guy that literally soloed, I think that's what it's called,
free solo,
free soloed El Capitan, which is in Yosemite, the largest rock, right?
It's beautiful.
And it's thrilling, but I could assure you, like he at that time he was not super wealthy. That was just he was a professional climber, but to be realistic, I don't know how much professional climbers make, but I doubt that they make as much as like people who are in the NBA or like within soccer, right? Because they have contracts, whereas professional climbers, maybe they do competing and then maybe they get sponsorships. Maybe those are super lucrative. I may not know, but I know for a fact that Alex Honnold, when he was thinking about ascending on this, that was not like his purpose was not to get wealthy per se, right? He just did it, and there was so much excitement because of the novelty aspect of like going on a challenge and being so invested in a hobby that nobody could kind of compete with at that level. And by doing that, he was able to get a Netflix documentary because there was like, hey, I know you're risking your life. Can I still film this? And Alex Honnold said, yeah, that's okay. There had to be a crew in the back end, the business aspect, but him, by pursuing his passion and being top 1% in that, was able to build a extreme hit, essentially, from that free solo documentary, and then he got so much world acclamation, essentially, or like accolation of being super well known, and also the wealth came with it. After kind of being known as like literally the world's best climber. after that. So I feel like obviously this is an edge case. Think about how many other people have not made it as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the aspect of it's a winner take all, you have to be like exceptional at one thing, and the world truly does reward you for it. For example, like for this coffee, I cannot tell you how I could get this coffee, but as long as I'm like good at one thing, I'll accrue enough wealth to be able to like buy coffee and whatnot. So like I'm just saying that you have to have like a skill set that maybe society does not know like how to get at this current time by like obsessing it within your craft, whatever that may be.
Yeah. And I mean that is very, very interesting. And I know you were saying something about like how you've seen the trend of humanitarian majors actually making being more employed than people who have technical skills. Do you believe that is because a lot of the technical stuff can be automated with AI and with advancements in technology, that I think humanity in general needs to go more towards just being creative rather than being super technical and robotic? Would you agree, or like what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, just within the unemployment side, in terms of income, obviously the tech STEM majors, they do make more, but in terms of just employment in general, we are seeing a trend that I believe ComSci specifically had a 6% unemployment rate compared to a 3% unemployment for humanitarian, like art history, for example, which is kind of bewildering. Yeah. But I think that just goes to say that humanities are kind of required within the sense that maybe it could be like ethics related, or it could be just more like instead of technical like capabilities, more social skills that are kind of highly valued within workplaces. For example, like any sales jobs, I feel like that requires more so not technical per se, but more social skills. Yeah. Maybe where that humanitarian comes in. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I've heard was that junior employees, like for example, working for any fan companies, I heard that it's way better in terms of cost to have like AI be able to train it, and having like let's say maybe like a senior engineer just overseeing what the AI agents are actually performing, because it's like the cost is just not worth it. Like imagine paying $100,000 compared to like an AI agent at like a fraction of the cost, even $10,000 per month, right? Or $10,000 a year, excuse me.
I think it's funny how like humans, within our lifetime over the last like 5-6 years, we went from, all right, people are going to be working in the United States in the office to, oh yeah, they're going to be working off the office, and like let's go grab them from the Philippines or like other impoverished countries, to, you know what? We don't even want to pay him that much. Let's go ahead and create AI that's able to, do this 24/7 with an increased amount of productivity, and it costs even fractionally less than.
That's the beauty of technology. It creates so much abundance, but there's a lot of externalities. Like keep in mind, like for example, the advent of the internet had led to a crazy amount of porn consumption. Video games, like a lot of bad addictions, I would say. But in terms of the abundance of knowledge that anyone could have the same knowledge as like a Harvard grad, let's say, there's so much abundance, but again, it's like you have to think long term, kind of going back to like the politicians of like what society would value long term, and then kind of like balancing that. But
and again, it is very hard to be like a people pleaser, because again, there's a very high chance that every single decision you make, there's half of the population that is going to disagree with it in a perfect world.
Right.
And that's why, like, there's always these swing states, and these guys focus more on that, because all you need to do is, like, get that 51%.
Right.
It's not like, hey, I'm going to do this by a landslide, just because, again, ideologies and, IQ levels for certain people. Like, let's say if, you're targeting more educated people, who know about the economic system, they are going to have an entirely different perspective from that. But again, in America, not everyone is educated. Not everyone has, the same values and, understands, economics and just how countries specifically work. So that's why, these guys have to be like, oh yeah, we're going to have Megan Thee Stallion rapping and dancing in a political rally just to, like, entertain, which was Kamala Harris. And I was just like, as I was looking at that, I was like, these politicians, like, I think America, it might be a country that is on the downhill aspect of things, just because we really have politicians that are bringing out rappers and just sing and stuff
to the masses. Right?
Yeah. And
I think there's like a quote of like, give them bread and circus. Yeah. And they will like love you. Like, for the rest of your life. I think that was like during the Roman Empire. Yeah. Which is very true. It's not much different these days. Yeah. Give them entertainment. Yeah. And that's what tech companies do. Essentially, give them a addiction of like whatever pornography, video games, social media, and you're gonna be hooked because we live in an attention economy where attention is the currency these days.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly why the wealth gap is only going to get wider and wider. Just because I do believe, and again, this is not me hating on anyone out there. I do believe humans in general. There's like two different parts. Some people, unfortunately, just don't have the IQ levels to actually think a little bit outside of the box, or they don't have like the societal pressure. They just get sucked into what their surroundings have kind of built for them. And then there's this other portion of a little 1% pocket of the world that just kind of thinks outside the box, and they're the ones who actually end up making it, and they end up controlling their other 99% of the people. Yep. And again, it sounds bad. It sounds like this is really bad. But it's just, I'm not exactly sure. Like, the only thing you can do here is just to make sure that other 99% of people are educated. I mean, and maybe AI is able to help us out, but overall, like, if the IQ level is not there, like, isn't it better if you just train AI agents to do that?
Yeah, that is a true concern of like, okay, whether you are in the IQ distribution, if you're like not at 50, but like what happens to all of those people?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, going back to the conversation of like humanitarian UBI, I feel like there needs to be some set, but as the beauty of technology is that there's so much gains that society gains in terms of marginal costs of like creation just going down, benefits in productivity, benefits and like health outcomes. There's so many, but again, like it's probably the people that are creating this is probably like on the IQ distribution, definitely in the top, like I would say up certain quartile, like probably in the 90th quartile or higher, because to be honest, like what these companies are doing essentially is they're recruiting other talent that are, that has the capabilities, right? I believe all like tech companies, like for example, Mark Zuckerberg was a great recruiter. I believe like some of their COO has been like Sherry, I think that's her name, like has been leading that company for like 20 years. And I've heard like engineers talk about really high acclaim for her. So I feel like all tech companies are like how you're able to spot and recruit that top like 90th quartile. And even like we're talking with some UCLA grads or like students that are just going into the space of data science like and AI, because that seems to be where the value creation is created. But keep in mind, like this is like the news that we're seeing, going back on last week's topic about if we look at the top 1%, it's over people who make over 700,000 a year, and we noticed that a lot of them. 500. Was it 500?
Yeah,
I think it was 700.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe I think 500 was incorrect. Because like it depends on what year you're looking at, because it increases due to inflation.
Got it.
But I believe it's 700K to be. Yeah, I think I said 500K on the pod, but I re-looked at the article and kind of going back on it, the top 1% of people are not like people like leading the AI per se, because those are not 1%, but it's usually like these boring business owners who could just brute force, like the carpet replacement companies and whatnot. So if you're not trenchers, if you guys are still kind of figuring it out, like we are all figuring it out in this universe, in this earth that we have, like we have a very short time span, but the rate of technology may fear us, but I think within that fear, you're also going to be able to find solace in like finding out what like your values are, what like you want life to kind of look like for yourself, and then kind of build that vision out for yourself and not be too pessimistic, because everyone probably, like I'm sure that this experience that we're feeling now, I'm sure back in 2002 or the early 2000s when the internet was creating, they were feeling like crazy amount of FOMO, crazy amount of fear. But just keep in mind, like whatever passion that you have or mission, you got to develop that. And it's not like this woo-woo thing of like, okay, like quit your job to do that. But yeah, you definitely do need like a paycheck in order to cover baseline. But always work on that passion, because as long as like you're building that within outside work hours, like on the weekends or whatnot, or like sacrificing for that is going to accrue you so much more reward, like in the long-term future. Like for example, we're talking about personal branding, and like how the personal brands that we were looking at for Sam, for example, like they've been putting in work for we saw like 1,100 posts. That's a lot of posts, and now they're getting some fruits of their label of like getting that millions of revenue. But we don't see like the three likes engagement post. We only see them like after they've kind of already gained that the audience market fit, let's say, of like hundreds and thousands of iterations where it starts counting. So I mean, yeah, just going back at it, even this, like, we don't care truly if, well, like, whether there's, you know, hundreds of people watching, because we're practicing public speaking and we're documenting our journey along the way, getting, you know, 1% better each week, which compounds.
I know. And again, I think let's going deeper into, you know, just the actual true purpose. I know we were chatting a little bit about the personal branding side of things. It is still, like, on my end, it is like, you know, pretty tough. Like, do you have like a vision where you see in terms of, you know, I know you said you were still figuring it out. Right. Do you have like, it does seem like you have been thinking a little bit more about the personal branding side of things. Where is your head at just in terms of?
Yeah, so I'm planning on just restarting kind of like the study community channel that I've kind of gained. When I first began, I didn't really have like a strong, like a number goal per se, but more of a mission. And I think that's why I was able to like stream like 10 plus hours each day and like grow it from 0 to 50 over like 55,000 subscribers within 2 years or so. So, and that just, you know, that was just me showing up like every single day. And at one point I wasn't really looking at the numbers, but I do remember someone saying there's like 20,000 people watching, and like there's some live streams with, I think, nearly almost, I want to say like over 100,000 views, which, you know, in the grand scheme of like internet's not big, but for me it's like, that's insane. That's a whole stadium, right? Like multiple stadiums. So I mean, I think the value of personal brand is bigger than ever, mainly because it's again the attention economy and the fact that every business, it seems to have some type of personal brand. Even like the communities that I go to, all these run clubs, all their sponsorships are because they have a personal brand behind it. So for me, it's more so just documenting the process of the journey of becoming, hopefully, the acquisition entrepreneur. But I think for now, it's just like doing the studying, the grunt work of just that documentation. And then overall, within the, we talked about Twitter or Instagram. I haven't done like a lot of writing or anything, but I still think that those two avenues are things that I want to prioritize once I get like the CPA and then like have like something that I'm running, because I feel like that's gonna be like a growth engine. But for me right now, I think just documentation is where my head is at.
And I think this is also great just because you are studying for, you know, the CPA, and it just kind of transitions in. It like motivates you a little bit to be like, hey, I'm already studying, might as well, you know, just have a camera on and just, you know, grind that out, because again, that does motivate. If other people are watching, and like it's kind of like being in the library. I'm just like, oh, other people are watching. I can't be slacking. I can't be on my phone.
Exactly right.
They're watching me right now.
I mean, I have so many people like come up. Like just I've met some like UCLA students that were like coming up. It's like, oh, I used to watch your streams. Like just in my random like law who were studying for law school and whatnot. And I was like, that's insane. But it's exactly right. Like there is a strong need for community, and whatever community that you could make, as long as you have 1,000 true fans. Like even a study community, for example, I'm sure it could print. Like you know, as long as you're
like a school community.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I'll teach you how to truly get rich. You know, this studying is not anything. Transforming the educational system.
Yeah, transforming the education system. You hear that so many times from all these gurus, and they say, oh yeah, school's not for me. But there's a reason why, because they have a $29 funnel in the back end that upsells into a $10,000 course. But you know, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, as long as I continue on like with the documentation, I can rejuvenate that personal brand. I think it's just tough to be consistent, because you're a hamster wheel, you know. Unless you have like a business that like you know, helps with like your lifestyle or not. Like having a personal brand, if you're not passionate about it, it's not gonna if with the intent of only just making money, I feel like it's gonna be very, very difficult. Because you're competing with people who truly have so much time on their hands and are gonna be editing like crazy amount of content, like crack videos. And you're like, gosh, like I can't do that.
I know.
But as long as you're passionate about like some type of thing, that your mission that you're building, I feel like that passion is truly contagious. And like that's what I feel like other people have gained from me. Of like, I'm working like, for my goal was just like, you know, just studying at UCLA, like, or like from, you know, nobody to like, you know, graduating from there. I guess like that's a little hero journey that people are like, oh, if I watch this guy stream, I'm gonna be like him. For like a high school student. So there's definitely that niche, and like as long as you have a mission, I feel like you could do big things within this landscape of social media.
That's honestly really, really exciting, and I am very excited to see, you know, where this ends up going.
It's a long journey for sure, but it's week over week you'll you'll hopefully see the progress.
Yeah, and I am glad that, you know, we're kind of doing this just to keep ourselves accountable, and just like kind of like check in just and throw some ideas off, just because, you know, this kind of helps us, and also the trenchers out there that, you know, like, what are these guys doing? How do they actually do it? I mean, once, you know, let's say, I mean, you're at 1 million subscribers, let's say next time, you know, like this year, like, people are gonna be like, oh, let me watch David's like other pods. How can I, like, you know, just redo everything? And they're gonna look at your mindset. They're gonna look at, you know, everything you're doing.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's pretty exciting. I know we were chatting yesterday a little bit more about like my idea of the personal brand and where that vision is. I know you gave me some ideas about, you know, the squid Haas person, and you know, some other like gym specific influencers. I think for me, it's just, I know it was beautiful that you were talking about, hey, you know, being passionate about it, and, you know, just going deeper, because again, it's at least a 2-year journey.
Minimum.
And I know might be 10. So again, I think for me, like, I think my just content creation in general, for me, I just kind of started a little bit like while I was, you know, still working at Goldman. I was like, oh, I'll just be that, you know, that finance guru, and around that time, all these finance gurus were coming up.
I remember, there's only like 3 or 4 winners, and they made it really, really big. Like, I'm thinking about like Graham Stephan, like Andre Jig, Brian Jung. Like, those are some of like the personal finance dudes that just popped off.
It's just, and again, that's a very hard thing to do, just because it's a boring subject. You have to make it entertaining. And for me, you know, I started creating short form videos. I had a little bit of success over there, and I was like, okay, like, I'm not really making money from this. Like, I just need to figure something out. Like, because all these other people, I'm looking at their, like, you know, like trucks, and I was like, what? This guy's like making so much money, and I was like, what direction am I even taking? Got confused over there, and I was like, all right, I understand now. And after that, I started building, you know, just wasn't in the job market, wasn't really in finance. I also think I got some sort of imposter syndrome, just because what I was preaching, I was like, oh, you know, you got to save this much money. I wasn't really like doing it myself, just because I just had a different life. And I was like, okay, yeah, now it just doesn't feel right.
It's not authentic.
And again, it's just, you know, I'm in a relationship with a woman who's you know, she's not, unfortunately, she doesn't really, you know, follow those, you know, financial rules. So unfortunately, you know, that is something a lot of these gurus, you know, do forget to you know, tell you. So, you know, you can't really control that. So yeah, long story short, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go down to the marketing route, just because I'm building businesses. You know, they're making not too much money. They were making a little bit of money at that time, and I was like, hey, maybe I'll just go down to the agency route. You know, bought this agency, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna double down on this, like be the web design guy, blah blah blah. Ended up realizing, you know, just, you know, things were not the same. And then I spent 6 months, you know, trying to figure out how am I gonna clean up this mess. After that, I was like, okay, now, like, I've done web design at that web design company. I was like, hey, it's not really recurring. I made a little bit of money over there. And after that, I was like, hey, like, but I can just do SEO. And then I went down to SEO, and I was like, SEO is so boring. And I was like, oh, let me go back to finance. I was just flip-flopping so much.
Oh, for sure.
I had a full-time editor for like, actually 2 editors at one time, because I also had a client, you know, just so chaotic everywhere. But yeah, he was like working on my stuff, and then I got a VA just to post everything for me, just because I was like, oh, it just, you know, like, I don't have to do anything. And at the end of the day, like, I did that for about a year, and it's just, at the end of the day, I was just like, at this point, I'm just like wasting money. Because number one, I even have no idea what I'm even doing, and what direction I truly want to take, because again, the agency route was but then, you know, I kind of went to like just the manufacturing route. It started working out, and then I just my D2C company started working out a little bit. And then now I'm kind of, you know, doubling down on, you know, the apparel side of things. So it's just so chaotic, and I feel like the hardest part within content creation is the niche, you truly figuring out what you want to do, because everything needs to be a funnel. Especially if you're starting off. For me, my problem always has been, I would do something consistently, and I would do it very, very hard for 3 to 4 months, and afterwards, I would just be like, okay, how am I going to make money from this? If I don't see a direction in terms of how I'm going to be making money from this, I like truly fail, just because I just don't, I kind of feel cooped up, and that's what like motivates me, because I just know I need to like figure something else out that's gonna actually have a funnel. But the thing with funnels is that I'm not exactly sure, like when you start creating content, just because you're like, hey, I want this to be a funnel, it's not the same. I mean, then it just turns into work, and then you're like, no, I'm not passionate about it. So right now I'm kind of stuck in between the hamster wheel of, hey, like, you know, do I want to have this like nice funnel, or do I want to have like a personal brand? I feel like within the personal brand, it would be great And like the only thing I can do with the personal brand itself would be, hey, you know, selling like B2B services, which I know how to do like a lot of them, but that's not something I would never run an agency ever again. It's just, you know, I feel like I've outgrown that. So I think the only thing right now left here is, you know, kind of figuring out the funnel for hire. And now I'm just, you know, stuck within that just because, hey, you know, I do travel a lot. I do this, like, there's a lot of people like the Squid Hoss person. He said, you know, he's like, you know, doubling down on the fitness side of things. I'm not really sure if I'm that like passionate about fitness, and I'm not really sure if that's going to be a trend that I'm going to be riding as well. And actually, even Squid Hoss actually saw he's actually been grinding at this for over a year. Actually, did you know that?
Over a year.
Yeah, over a year. Because I saw their YouTube, like they had a YouTube video for about a year ago about like their channel, and I was like, oh my god, like I wonder, this dude is probably not really making money.
Yeah.
And he popped off right after he started like the Strawberry Milk Mob stuff. Yeah.
Got it.
So, but trenchers, I'm just, I think on my end, I am a little bit, you know, stuck trying to figure out, hey, like, do I just figure out the funnel first? Because I have some, you know, sales coming in from SEO, and I can, you know, double down a little bit more on that. But unfortunately, it is a very slow process, and it's going to take a very long time. And with, you know, the way that everything is changing within the SEO space, I'm not exactly sure, you know, what to do. And you know, with that, I'm just like, hey, maybe I should diversify a little bit into Facebook ads. That's where I'm at right now. But I know, you know, like I do know, like, you know, personal brand and just, you know, social media itself is very important as well.
Mainly because the cost is zero. Whereas like Facebook or paid ads, there is some cost component associated.
Yeah.
And like, unless like you're a really great media buyer, other people could probably just replicate what you do.
Yeah.
But again, like there's so much knowledge gap between like the top 1% media buyer, I feel like, compared to like just a regular person who's trying to just create ads.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely something to kind of consider.
Just think about. Yeah. So again, I think overall, I would be able to beat. Like my vision here is just, you know, run a bunch of volume at least, because again, I have like the supply chain and everything kind of figured out. My goal would just be, hey, this doesn't need to make too much profit as long as I can do a bunch of revenue, just because I can get a lot of that repeat customer and, you know, the LTV.
Longer.
Yeah. And I think my problem right now is that inventory is not an issue for me. Like the only thing here is that I need to run through more volume. I don't care if it's profitable right now, but this needs to be running through. And I feel like with the, you know, personal branding or like videos in general, like social media, I think that is going to be a very slow burn and slow route, and it does work for people who like have inventory constraints and don't have like you know, the moat of, you know, having a warehouse, having like, you know, a system for you know, inventory and just all that. So I think when my vision here right now is that, again, I like am down to, you know, go down into the personal brand and just, you know, social media side of things. After figuring out a little bit of, you know, or at least finalizing some of the funnels of that. But then again, it might be just me making excuses, because I do have imposter syndrome now, just because I feel like, hey, you know, I did it for like so long, it didn't really work out. Am I even, is my moat even that I'm a, you know, a good content creator, or is the moat here is that, hey, I'm just a better businessman? And that's kind of where I'm stuck. I do feel like I'm a better businessman than I am a content creator. And I do want to, you know, double down on one of those things. Yeah. But I also know that the future of you know, Facebook ads or just ads in general is content. It's just, you know, it's all going to be automated. So I'm just kind of stuck in that funnel. I mean, what are your thoughts just in terms of this?
I personally think that if I was you, I would be documenting the process of going to the manufacturing like almost daily and just making content revolving around that. Maybe like showcasing like some things that customers bought. I know there were some funny stories that Nikaya has actually brought up. Yeah. Like, it may not even be that. It might also be just revolved around just you authentically sharing your business kind of pursuits or passions, what you consume as well. Because like what you consume is how you think. Yeah. And if you're able to like document that, I'm sure your community will eventually find you. Yeah. Albeit it might be a small fraction. Those small fraction are also other businessmen who are willing to, you know, spend a lot on, I don't know, whatever sponsorships or even like your product in itself. So you just need one, you know, enterprise at the end of the day. So I feel like if I was you, if I was, you know, truly like, as we're talking about in the trenches, I would be thinking about how can I like just humble myself of like starting from ground up and then kind of build this like empire for, you know, the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. The only thing here, like for me, that gets me a little bit stuck is that, again, right now, what I'm like mostly like is happening at the warehouse is, you know, just print fits, which is, again, more of the manufacturing side of things. And like I'm doing that. Right. And overall, like, longer term, I do not want to run like a huge company in the printing space. Like this is here just because, again, you know, it just pays the bills and it does work. Yeah. And I think like over the long term, I feel like I wouldn't really want an audience that is, you know, interested within that. Yeah. It would be more like, you know, a specific community like that is interested in apparel, because I have way higher margin on the actual apparel side of things rather than that. And like, and again, just I don't have to hire as many people instead of just, you know, doubling down. And again, I do have like, you know, some B2B clients in terms of that, and like also with, you know, the funny stories that we tell you. Right. I'm not exactly sure the legality of exposing like other people's like designs because some of them are personal. Got it. And like, so that's why like
creating content might like through that might be a little bit tough, because I was just thinking about the crocheting or like where you could do like tutorials and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, that is a very tough one. In that case, maybe like showcasing, I don't know. I feel like in that end, it would just be having to reach out to like content creators to be the fulfillment guy, like the more of the business person, and building relationships authentically through there. Unless like because the personal brand thing, that might only work if you could showcase, let's say, like the documentation of building the business. But you know, if you're not getting, you can't like showcase the end product, let's say, or like the fulfillment aspect, then it's just be a better businessman in the sense of like just reach out to more people, building a system like a referral system or somewhat, and then just being great at sales and like building those connections.
So that's kind of where, you know, it all comes in. It's just like, hey, is my moat even the content creator? Right. Realistically speaking, I'm great at like, you know, public speaking and all that, but I think it's just, I don't like, for me, once I go down to the script and go deeper into like creating content just by thinking about it, I start hating it. Because I'm just like, for me, I'm just like, I can be in front of the camera and just say like, you know, random stuff for fun. But once I have to like, this is because, it's like, I'm doing this just because, you know, I want this to like blow up. I want this, like, it's too much work. Like I don't want to think of that, because I want to live in the moment and actually enjoy it, enjoy creating content, because that's not. But the only problem is that the type of content that I like to make and I enjoy making, that doesn't really get too many views, just because it doesn't have like, you know, the entire structure. Right. So I think for me, it's just like at this point, I'm just like, you know, for travel stuff, I just, you know, just make stuff as for memories and stuff, because they are great memories. But that's kind of, you know, where I'm at. What's your strategy in terms of like, you know, it's the engagement side of things?
Honestly, I'm exactly like you. I don't like to like script too much. All of my talking head videos, I did one in like kind of about like an autobiography, which had like 50,000 I think views, but the main reason was because like people wanted to know who is this guy from. So the funnel, I mean, I'm thinking about it in the funnel structure, which is my live streams would be on the For You page of a lot of people who are interested in like med school or like law school, like just like very standardized exam like type of content, right? So that would be the funnel of like people coming into the live streams. I would have like thousands of unique viewers each day, and then from there they would click on to see like learn more about me. That's why the video I think popped off. As for engagement, the live stream had insane engagement. I think at one point, I think we had like, in terms of Patreon like members, probably like, I don't know, I would say like maybe 30 to like 40 like paying on a monthly basis, which is really great. You know? And I feel like I could have doubled down on like growing that, like if I was like super financially hungry. And then I think AdSense, it was making like a couple hundred, like 300 to maybe a couple. I don't know if I ever hit 1,000. I have to check, but I know like yearly it was like a couple thousands. Like, damn. But I mean, to get to that point, it was like years of grinding. But I should have kept on like gas pedaling. But for me, I that wasn't like who I was or who I was becoming. Unless I was like becoming like PhD like student, right? But yeah, I mean, I think the content that I want to make is like, it has to evolve, and the community also has to evolve. I think that's why like I watch like, for my feed, it's mainly like business content or like lifestyle type of content, mainly because, you know, that's kind of what I see or like who I'm becoming in a way.
So it's actually funny that, a lot of the content that I know like you share with me, I realistically speaking, like just being like from the business and the back end side of things, I guarantee a lot of that is just fake. Like that lifestyle, because I have run some of the numbers that some of these guys are doing. They're not doing that much numbers, and I think it's just they're creating the lifestyle. They're trying to create the funnel of like, hey, I'm gonna look good on like just try to fake it until I make it. Basically,
got it.
To me, it's just because. Again, I'm into like the deep, like, like Ridge Wallet, like marketing operators, those podcasts. These guys do like hundreds of millions of revenue, and I know what their profits are, and like that the D2C space, and I can tell like there's no moat right there. Unless they're just. It's maybe like one of those funnels where like it's just lifestyle down to just that apparel and D2C brand, which is good. I mean, Hailey Bieber was able to get like a 3-4x multiple just because of that. But I think in the short term for me, like I am more practical, and I do kind of understand like the economics just doesn't make sense to me because I see people like doing way more revenue than them, and it's just they have a different lifestyle than like what you have. So there's something going on here.
Oh, for sure. I mean. It's very easy to fake, I think, a lifestyle, especially like with, I heard that back in the day, I think this was like early COVID days where people were going to studios in Los Angeles to have like it was a fake private jet within a room to take a picture in, and then just to have like flex or maybe show off like a certain lifestyle. There's been a lot of people who have actually been caught by FTC because they were selling courses that were on that like almost unethical and like actually scamming people. So sure, like within social media you have to kind of teeter on like what's the message and what like aesthetic like you're trying to portray, because at the end of the day everything is a funnel if you think about it. But like as long as it's authentic and like truly passionate, where like it's true, I feel like that always prints. Like I'm thinking about George Heaton, for example. I'm sure although he's doing probably like hundreds of millions in revenue, his profit margin I think still is pretty like large, mainly because like we looked at the markups of like some of it.
But with the inventory like forecasting and all that, it's still at like larger numbers, it ends up being 10 to 15%.
I mean, despite that, I feel like he's still like good.
Like he's still making $10 million.
Exactly. So 10 million is better than like nothing. So I mean, that personal brand aspect, I mean, it is fueled by his business aspect. I'm sure there are some write-offs and whatnot for his luxurious the kind of lifestyle that he lives in, and like I think he's also in this area as well. He has multiple bases, but essentially I mean it's just a growth engine and like another lever to kind of think about. But I mean, the way I see things, like especially in like how new money kind of makes money, it's usually like these Snapchat stories that people have been doing, creating content, as you mentioned, creating funnels. I feel like these are all like good skill sets, but you just gotta crack one and like put your head at it. For me, I think I'm gonna continue and go back to like just being the boring but like steady in progress. Like my structured thinking is like 5 to 10 year. Like that's how I like to like think about things, instead of like that short dopamine hit of like selling a course and whatnot. So I think that's for me, it's just doubling down on what's working already. Like what got me to 50K, maybe trying that again. So let's see if I could get to 100K or something. But just being more authentic, and then think now I have like a better model of like how the business aspect works. Because before I was just looking at Pythagorean theorems and like just like looking at theories, and I didn't really have like an understanding of like how the model works. But now with that, I feel like mindset and how like models work of like the personal brand, like Steve Bartlett's like whole like podcast scheme is like truly like cracked out for in terms of like this person, this doctor says you're gay or something like crazy like titles for engagement structures. Maybe I'll try some of that within it, but a lot of trials and tribulations for sure.
And again, that's kind of what trenches are always about. They're always about like you figuring stuff out, and you like.
I think about Sam's journey, for example. Like he's been going through the thick of it for like multiple years, being in SEO, running an agency, running VAs. Like that's just a game that you're signing up for. You may not if maybe Sam, once he makes it, like if he was to repeat it. You might not even say, you might say no, like knowing the cost of like what, like this lifestyle. But you know, that's kind of like the journey of it, because it's truly within your hands of like how much you take home. Like it's like truly up to like how many like swings you're actually making.
It's all about how many swings you are able to make. And you know, it's funny, Mr. Beast says that, hey, if you were to take all my subscribers away, I could be back in next year.
100%.
And I guarantee, like, it's insane. Because like, as you know, I'm aging, and I never really understood Mr. Beast, and as I'm learning more through, you know, all this trials and tribulation, I'm just like, you know what, I think I can redo this over again, just because of like, you know, what I've been through, like my experiences, my new knowledge, and just because again, when I was a little bit younger, I was like a lot more stupid. Like I didn't really understand certain things. It was just, you know, you just think more sporadically, you think more short term, and it's just, you know, I think it's at the end of the day, as you age, you're just like, honestly, it's not that big of a deal. It's just like life just goes on by so fast. Next, 5 years? That's going to be so quick.
For sure.
And like, it's insane. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, you know, where we're at. Just let's talk a little bit more about, you know, what we were able to get done this week, and what our goals are for next week.
So right now I'm kind of finishing up like essentially a 4-day kind of MBA course, to say the least. Essentially just looking at balance sheets and whatnot, and then the CPA, I already kind of discussed that last week. I've already bought it. Starting out with the FAR. My exam date, I'm hoping that I could finish all of the reading structures. I'm being super ambitious to like try to get it like at least one practice exam, or maybe start the exam like at the end of the month on 6:30. So that means, but there's 4 sections. There's four total exams. So a lot more discipline, like studying that I have to do actually, like behind the camera. But yeah, that's kind of everything on my end, and then just regular 9 to 5. It's just
the classic.
Yeah, it's just a classic. Just paying the bills.
I know. Yeah, on my end, my vision here right now is to actually, I need to recreate one of the themes for, you know, a hire, which is my apparel brand. Conversion rate for us is still low because I was trying to test out this t-shirt funnel, and then I was just like, okay, but like I still have traffic coming in, which decreased. But my new funnel that was added onto the homepage decreased the conversion rate of, you know, basically the current funnel that I had. So I basically am just going to be recreating the theme itself, adding more stuff on there, just making it look more, you know, elite and higher end. And of course, you know, that's kind of the vision right now. I am going to be traveling starting Wednesday, so and I'll be back. And yeah, it's going to be, you know, a great time. So I think from now to Wednesday, just the goal here is just to, you know, ship out just a new funnel. Again, still do the same emails. I did get a little bit of a good information that, you know, on the B2B aspect, I did have some progress on one of the clients that we're going to be working on. That's, you know, exciting stuff as well. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm able to, you know, say on this podcast, but, you know, things are going towards the right direction. And yeah, just still also waiting for another couple clients just to see, you know, how crazy Q4 is going to be. There's going to be a move to the new warehouse at the end of this month. So that's exciting as well. And then I'm doing Europe in July. So, you know, very, very fast.
Eventful weekends ahead, weeks ahead. A lot of this hard work that you put in now, it's going to hopefully like pay dividends. And I could attest, you know, although he can't like reveal at the moment, but once that does come into fruition, it's going to be super exciting times for the pod. Right now we're in the trenches, truly, you know, just building step by step. It's going to take us some time to get to where, you know, both of us like want to get to, but again, it's the documentation that matters. But yeah, so no pod, I think next for the next.
Maybe we can do it because I come back Saturday. I'm down to do it like, you know, either Saturday or Sunday.
All right, so pod next week. And with that, stay the trenchers. Thank you guys so much. Do you have any last remarks?
No last minute thoughts. Just the only one thing is that you just got to keep going. It's not a short-term journey. It is a long-term journey. And you just have to embrace the pain and embrace that this work that you're putting in today is going to pay you so much more dividends in the future.
It's not a race. It's a marathon, baby.
It's a marathon, baby. Let's go.